Alright, so I was going to record the suspended cymbal part separately. However, you can imagine that sounds very interesting on recording. But I did want to talk through it a little bit. So there's a couple of points where it says to play with a soft stick, then there's a clash, then it says hard stick. Realistically, you're probably not going to have a pair of crash cymbals at home, so you can pretty much make all of the sounds that you need on the suspended cymbal. In the beginning, it would be a little tricky to work on moving from a soft stick to a hard stick. If you can, you might work on your 3 mallet technique here. So you could start with your 2 soft mallets and roll. And move to your outside mallet, which is your drumstick. If you have to stick with the same mallets the whole time, then I would recommend not using the softest mallets you have so that it's still able to articulate for those clashes in the hard stick. So the stick that I'm using right now is a pretty good in between. If you need to use a drumstick for a hard stick, that's just fine. I would recommend muting the cymbal after you hit it though. You can let it ring for a moment, don't choke it right away, because you want to get the sound that a crash cymbal would have. So I would say let it mute it on count 1. So you have 1, 2, 3. I'm not going to record the whole thing because, like I said, it doesn't sound necessarily great with the recording. All you hear is this that picks up. But as far as that goes, that would probably be the best route, would be to combine that suspended cymbal and crash cymbal part, or clash is what it says, and to get yourself a softer pair of mallets and a drumstick to play that part. For the other things, I think there's a total of 1 gong hit in the whole piece. So I'm not gonna make, or I guess 2 gong hits in the whole piece, so I'm not gonna make a separate recording for that either. If you play the bells there at letter H, I would recommend that you watch the xylophone video, because you guys have almost the exact same part. The xylophone plays it first, ba-da, 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 da-da, 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 ba-da, da-da, da-da, and then the bells add in. Ba-da, da-da, 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 ba-ba-ba-da-da, ba-da. So you guys add in there. So it's very similar. Your notes are a little different at 9, and you don't play the roll part like the xylophone, but it's still the exact same count structure. So you have, as soon as you get done with ba-da-da-da-da-da, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1. So I recommend, if you are playing the bells, that you listen to the xylo recording, because those will go basically exactly together. And actually your notes are all the same in H. They're a little different at 9, but it's the same exact rhythm. The only other part that I have not talked about yet is the tambourine. Tambourine is also pretty straightforward. I'll go ahead and grab it. The only part that might not be as straightforward, I think, is the very end. That is one that I probably would recommend doing an actual shake for. So there's it's 1, 2, 3, 4 bars before the end with the tambourine, and it's a crescendo from piano up to forte. I would recommend just doing a shake part for that. And then as far as the ending, I don't think you necessarily need to articulate it. It's just 1, 2, 1. I thought about potentially if that were going to be a hand roll or a thumb roll. I think in the long run, just with it being that sustained, it's going to be a little better to be the hand roll. If you decide that when you're playing with it, it sounds like it needs a little bit of an accent at the end, you could tap it as you're finishing. Personally, I don't think that fits very well with the music at that part, so I would just do a hand roll. Anytime you do see pickup notes for tambourine, it's either going to be a brief thumb roll. You could also put it on your knee and play. If it's piano there at the end, that may be a good route to go. I know it would be very quick after your 1, 2, 1, 2, 1. So that would be pretty quick. So I would think maybe if you can pull a gentle thumb roll out of that bit, I need to wax this. So I would work on your thumb rolls if you're interested in that part. What else we got here? I think those are really the only tricky parts of the tambourine at the very end. Otherwise, it's just you've got some sforzando hits with the snare drum. Just try to make them nice and short and crisp. And then anytime that you have a roll with the snare, where you have from count of 1 to count 2, I would hit the end of count 2. So in 4, in measure marker, or I guess, marker 4, you have bar 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 of section 4. You got 1, 2. So I would hit that count 2. 1, 2. Up, 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 up. Up, 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 up. So I would actually hit that note at the end of those. Other than that, it's all just kind of miscellaneous parts. I would recommend, if you have an auxiliary part, playing it with the snare drum part that I played earlier. That way you have a chance to hook up your part with that. See if there's anything else that I want to talk about. So I think as far as tambourine, the ending's a little tricky for you. You'll probably need to work most on, honestly, the last 4 bars. If you're playing the wood block part, you're going to be playing the snare drum part. That's just going to be on the rim. There's no reason to try to search your home for wood block. Bass drum, we haven't talked about you yet. The only thing I'm really going to say about you is mostly the notes on a bass drum are going to be short. We have a big boomy one here. Thankful that we're not having to towel that one. But that part is not too complex. In fact, bass drum and gong, you could likely be the same person. I wouldn't see any reason. There's only 2 gong hits in the whole thing. I wouldn't see any reason why you couldn't. Cymbals, you should be able to keep it all on the same part, all on a suspended cymbal, but I would recommend having a couple different kinds of mallets to get the sounds out of the cymbal that you want. Bells, listen to the Bells, listen to the xylophone recording that I made to play your part along with that one. Timpani, you have a separate recording. Xylophone has a separate recording. Snare drum has a separate recording.